Hey everyone, it's Mark. Welcome to Onyx Training Table. Today I want to kind of debrief and go over a situation that happened in California a couple months ago, and is in Northern California, the Lake Tahoe area. And it was the one where a lady ended up charging police officers or sheriff's deputies, and they ended up having to shoot and kill her with her two kids nearby. And the first thing I want to talk about is this is this is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for those officers who had to do what they had to do, and absolutely most important is for these children who had to experience this, their mother being shot like this. And that's something that we really have to be thinking about, is the human factor in all of these events. We sometimes try to get very antiseptic and sterile about it, and try to be real matter of fact, and try to use these very neutral terms to describe it or talk about it or refer to the situation, like that, saying the situation, when it's really, we got to remember, it's human. It's a human tragedy all the time, anytime, no matter what. Even if it's the suspect was intent on harming the officers or other people, and is coming at them and all this stuff, it's still a tragedy. It's still a human tragedy. And we have to keep that in mind, I think. And sometimes we lose that, and we shouldn't, because our humanity is what keeps us operating as a society. And if we lose that humanity, then our society is gone. But in this situation, I just want to talk about some things that I saw where, just that might have helped the officers and may have changed the situation and the outcome. I'm not questioning what they did. I'm just saying that possibly there was some things that could be added or changing, mindset change, or even a decision-making tactic change that could have changed the outcome of this. So I'm going to start this right here at the 640 mark, 650 mark, when the officers initially contact her. She's walking down the road with her kids. She's got the knife in her hand, and you'll see that she is having a mental health break, a psychotic break, because she is not reasonable or cogent, in her communications. So you see, to get that.
You're not in trouble or anything like that. I know what you did to my baby. I'm not going to touch your.
So the first thing she says, they says, "Hey, you're not in trouble or anything." She says, "Allahu Akbar." So that's right there, in the normal context of things, things aren't right. And then she says, "You're not going to touch my babies." Well, these are two law enforcement officers coming up. I mean, obviously they don't have, on the surface, initially, they don't have some kind of negative intent. So the fact that she is taking that tone immediately in this interaction kind of starts to let you know where she is with her mind.
Your babies, but I need you to put your knife away. County 1 Public, we're going to have one at gunpoint. She has a knife. I'm not going to hurt your babies. Hey, I'm not going to hurt your. I'm not gonna.
Everyone knows every single face, every single name. If something happens to me and my babies,
okay,
everyone in the whole world.
Hey, listen.
We're not.
Hold up.
All right, so she's starting to get agitated. They've done nothing to agitate her. They're just trying to talk to her. So obviously you see that she is self-escalating. She's not responding to anything that they're giving her. They aren't telling her to get on the ground. They aren't yelling and screaming at her. This is good how they're responding to her. They're just trying to get some interaction. They're trying to keep it at out of 1 to 10, they're trying to keep it down at a 1 or 2. She's starting to escalate it up, and they're paying attention to what else is going on. And this is something that we have to understand, because this happened also recently in Houston, and I talked about this, is that police officers ended up shooting and killing a suspect who jumped in a car, a vehicle theft suspect, and there was a 1-year-old baby in the car. and they ended up injuring the baby by shooting the baby. And people say, well, they didn't know he was in the car. Yeah, I get that, I understand it. But if we're talking about things, and we're talking about especially the basic firearm safety rules, which rule do we need to be worried about in this situation? Number 4, be certain of your target and beyond. So you have to see that the backdrop are these 2 little kids. And so we have to remember that kind of stuff in our decision making. It can't be just for the range where we're talking about, hey, we gotta be sure of our target and beyond, and then when we're out in the real world, something happens and we just start shooting because we feel that she's a threat to us, right? She's holding a knife and she's a threat to us. But who else is in the equation? Safety priorities are the children. They are in the safety priorities. They aren't hostages or victims right now, but they're innocent bystanders. And so in the safety priorities, right, hostages, victims are first, innocent bystanders are second, police are third, and then the suspects are fourth. So if in this case, if these kids aren't here, that kind of reduces it. But you also have the houses and everything in the back here. So we don't know that people aren't standing around here, or that somebody's inside their house there. If we shoot, it goes through a window and hits them. These are all things we have to be thinking about all the time. And I believe these officers are totally considering that. I'm not saying they aren't. I'm saying these are things that we as officers all the time need to be thinking about. And I think these officers in this case are definitely doing that.
Hey, we're not talking.
Everyone knows what you're gonna do. You can't sit there and say them all crazy.
I'm not saying anything. I just want to help you out.
They know who you are.
I just want to help out.
Everyone knows who you are. You can't hide.
Okay.
God.
Okay.
Allah Akbar.
Hold
Back
up.
up, Zoe.
Zoe, you want to back up? Zoe.
Fucking get near my baby.
Zoe, don't.
Don't you fucking
Okay.
near my baby.
So
We're
now
not.
we have-
Zoe, you want.
So now we have the deputies are talking to her, and she's coming forward, and there's one child over here, and the deputy with the taser is now out here. Now, here's where I'm talking about the situation could have changed and could have gone different. So the deputy here with the taser, less lethal, right? Some people call it non-lethal, whatever. It's always less lethal. I'm telling you this, things are either lethal or less lethal. Don't get into the habit of calling something non-lethal, because any force used against a person has a potential to create serious bodily injury and or death. So anything we do. So, I mean, they could hit her with the taser, she falls over, and she falls on a metal spike sticking out of the ground, and she's dead. Now, the proximate cause of death would be the taser. So it's no longer less lethal, it's lethal. So we say it's less lethal. It can't be non-lethal. Non-lethal would be nothing, not using any force. So don't get into that trap. A lot of people want to say, oh, use it, it's non-lethal, it won't kill somebody. Anything has a potential of killing somebody, if any force that you use against somebody. So here this deputy comes out, he's got the taser out, she's talking, she is now occupied with the other deputy. This is the time or an opportunity, because when we're using less lethal, we're looking for an opportunity to use it, right? This is the opportunity for this deputy to now use that less lethal. Why are we using less lethal? To gain compliance. A person is non-compliant. So there's no reason to wait until a person is compliant to use the less lethal force. The less lethal force is used on a non-compliant person to gain their compliance. So this is a perfect opportunity. She is not actively attacking the other deputy. She's talking, she's yelling, she's screaming. She's occupied with the other deputy and her child. So she's not paying attention to this deputy. This deputy has a perfect opportunity to now apply the taser to her. If he applies the taser to her and it's effective, right? What's she going to do? She's going to lock up. She's going to fall to the ground. Now they can then determine, does she need to get a second cycle? Or is she going to be compliant and they can take her into custody? By not doing that, by not using the taser right now and continue to allow her to escalate, as she's obviously escalating now, she's starting to be aggressive. She's starting to come forward. She's screaming. She's yelling, whether or not she's Muslim, she's now yelling giving a call, a chant, that people commonly associate with a Muslim terrorist, extremist, whatever, but anybody who is about to take action by, saying Allahu Akbar, right? That they're going to take action now of some sort. And so by her yelling that, she may be, she's alerting the deputies that she is considering taking action or about to take action, which now this is a perfect opportunity before she does take action for this deputy to apply the taser to her.
Come on, back up, Zoe.
So right now he's saying put the knife down. Well, using the taser could make her put the knife down. His words are not going to make her put the knife down. If they were, she would have put it down already. And that's one of the things we need to be looking at in law enforcement and policing, is that how many commands are we going to give a person before we realize that they aren't going to follow our commands? I know we hope that maybe the 44th time she'll put the knife down. But if she hasn't done it by about the third time, what does she immediately know she needs to do upon seeing law enforcement approach her on a contact and she's holding a knife? She knows the first thing she should do is put it down. If she doesn't put it down, what do we know? That she's not going to put it down. And so when we do this, when we get caught in this, the OODA loop, the processing, we're caught in the loop. We're not moving through to action. We're caught, we're observing, we're orienting, we're deciding, we're not deciding, we're not deciding. We're stuck in the processing loop. We need to move through the loop. And so part of that is training and preparation, that we know what we're going to do. That if I'm standing there, like this deputy, he's standing there, he's got the taser out, she's now talking to the other, she's not putting down the knife, bam, I hit her with the taser. It's plain and simple. Sometimes we put too much emphasis on, can we use this? This is not the point in time where this deputy should be trying to figure out, is he able to use this taser right now? This is not the point in time for that. The decision to figure out when to use the taser is made in training. It's made in practice. It's made in, tabletop discussions. But standing out here like this, that is coming around the front of the vehicle, seeing her holding the knife, talking to the other officer. She's already been commanded to put the knife down. She won't do it. She's not compliant. We know that she's not compliant. And now I apply the taser.
No!
Right there.
Hey,
taser.
I need you to put the knife down. Just talk. Just talk to us.
I don't have anything to say.
Talk to us.
It's good.
Talk
She's standing there. Taser.
Listen. Talk to us.
There's lawyers who have been
Talk to us.
They have all the
Come on.
evidence. So kill me now.
I don't want to kill you.
Because they
You
will
said-
find out the truth.
Don't.
Right there. Taser. She's obviously pointing away from. Now he's trying to tase. Now he's trying to tase her as he's running and she's running. It's much more difficult. And now what just happened? As he's running that direction, she's running that direction, the other deputy now starts to shoot at her to stop her from attacking his partner, which is completely understandable. However, back to the firearm safety rules, where is this deputy shooting? Now I understand this deputy's running around all of it, but also the deputy who's shooting is now trying to shoot at a moving target who is chasing another police officer. Firearm safety priorities, right? Hostage victims, innocent bystanders, officers, suspect. So now this deputy is stopping the suspect ahead of the other deputy's safety, right? And he's shooting towards houses right now. We know there's houses right there. It's a street. You can see it. So all these things, see how all these things start to snowball, right? As we don't take action at a lower level, things start to snowball out of control. And then these things are happening right here. So now, and he ends up hitting her and killing her. We have to look at that, right? How many rounds did he fire and how many rounds hit her? And if rounds missed, where did they go? So those are things to worry about. So my point being is when it's all said and done is, at this point right now, this officer is taking the action that he needs to take. What I am saying is that prior to this, Was there a point where something else could have happened that may have altered that, and we're not standing here watching this right now? These are questions we need to be asking ourselves all the time. And if we're not doing the right thing by ourselves, by our profession, and for our community. We have to be asking these questions. We oftentimes, we don't want to say anything about this. Well, they had to do this, and we make up all these things about, well, they had to do it, he had to do it, it's her fault, all this stuff. And you're right. Yeah, she's responsible for a part of it. She is. She's responsible for being on the road, holding a knife and not putting the knife down when the deputies are telling her to put it down. However, we are the trained professionals, and we are trained to deal with that situation, or we should be. And we're not trained just to shoot. We're trained to do other things as well. One of those was what the other deputy had: a taser, less lethal force, pepper spray. You know, if we've got our impact munitions, 12 gauge beanbag rounds, 37, 40 millimeter impact munitions, all that kind of stuff. Okay. And that's the thing, is we have to be thinking about that too. So the taser in this situation, completely get out, walk around the front. She's talking to him, taser, hit her with it. That's not a problem. We sometimes we put the less lethal force too close to lethal force. And then by that point, the less lethal force is ineffective. We have to use it at a much lower level of resistance and non-compliance. All right. I don't need to show the rest of this. I mean, it's a tragedy. It is. It's a tragedy for these two little children. It's a tragedy for these deputies. And it's a tragedy for this lady who, you know, had a psychotic break, and it led to her death. It did. And, you know, and so there's nothing really great in this, except that the deputies didn't get stabbed and the children didn't get harmed. Right. But that's what we've got to be thinking about when we're using this stuff, when we're using less lethal, is that we want to employ it at a much lower level of resistance. If we wait until the person is actively aggressing us, is actively trying to stab us, then it's too late for the less lethal, and we need to use lethal force. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about with this. You know, please don't be like, you know, oh, you hate cops. I don't. I love policing, and this is why I've trained police for the last 25 years, is because I don't want police officers to have to deal with this situation if we can avoid it. I don't want them to have to shoot a lady in front of her kids and now have to deal with that. I don't want that. I'd like something else to happen, right? I'd like police officers to go through their entire career without having to shoot and kill anybody, unless they needed it. Some people just need it. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Mark with Onyx Training Table.